What's up, everybody? I'm Caleb Ochoa, also known as NFL Caleb 22, and this is Ben NFL week number 15. And as always, I am with my co-host Derek Wesley, also known as DWeezy. What's going on, man?
Man, here for another week, another round of betting the NFL. And that means more plays, that means more upsets, that means more bad beats. And of course, that means, more best picks of the week. Because, you know, we at least win in some. We may not win them all, but we're going to at least win some. Now, I don't know,
Absolutely.
but I think one thing I might be able to guarantee is I can find a push. If there's anything I can do this season, it's been I can find at least one game a week that's gonna push. So, ready to
Well,
jump in
at least
and
you don't
hear
lose
how
money.
last. Hey, that is one benefit of the push, but you know, I find me a book that's gonna let me potentially, put down a bet on the odds of a game actually being a push, not you know give me that three-way market on a potential NFL spread if we're talking a flat number, like because I'd love to
You
see
know,
the odds on that. Because I mean, of course, I wouldn't know off the top of my head what they might be, but if you're talking about a number somewhere in the range of a plus 500, a plus 600, something like that, I mean, at the rate I've been hitting pushes this year, I would be well in the green on the season, but unfortunately, that isn't the case.
what we are here to do when you guys some money, that is the goal of the show. But before we get into anything, we gotta say what's up, Brandon Mizell. Nice to have you here for the first. You being the first one, we definitely thank you and appreciate that. Say what's up to Jay. What's up, man? Thanks for joining in. Obviously, Delia, what's going on? And then my dad. Um, so yeah, thank you guys for tuning in for this great episode we got for you. Before we get into our best bets of the week, we got to recap what happened in week 14. We'll do that just now. The favorites against the spread, they were pretty bad. They were pretty bad last weekend. The underdogs seemed to get the big advantage last week. Favorites just go 4-10-1 overall. They still have it 102, 195, and 11. But yeah, just a bad weekend for the favorites there. Home teams, it didn't really have any edge one way or another. Win an even 7-7-1 against away teams against the spread 93, 104, and 11. So still have the edge to the road teams against the spread. So you might still want to bet road teams going forward. And then the over and unders. Overs, I think it's 2 weeks in a row now. We've seen the overs do better than the unders. Uh, and overall, it's still 90 to 117 unders. Still a lot of unders hidden, but 2 weeks in a row now. I mean, you see that trend still going forward. I mean, we've seen a lot more points being scored. Getting down to almost playoff time. What do you think about that?
Um, I mean, it is a possibility that the books have finally adjusted to a certain degree that is bettable. Uh, as far as approaching the overs on these game totals in the broad sense. Um, but at the same time, you're talking about, like you said, the playoffs are coming. So you have teams fighting for the playoffs, and I mean, a current topic you hear floating around different shows and different outlets is the tiebreakers that exist. And you're not worried about those things unless you're potentially fighting for the playoffs. And so some of these games, a win means more than just a another W in the win column. So you know, you would like to believe that a lot, for the most part, these teams they're giving it their all every week. But these are the types of things are that added motivation For some of the, definitely among the top players and the top teams in the league, but even some of the lower teams, you know, we, in a sport like football and, the athletes that you deal with, bragging rights means a lot. And so, you know, fighting all the way down the stretch, if you got a chance, not shocked. I mean, literally just about every team in the league is still alive as far as playoff hopes, however you want to cut that. So, you know, uh, could it be a combination of the two? The books finally bringing the numbers low enough where overs are hitting. We are seeing, though it be from backup quarterbacks, we are actually seeing a little bit of an increase in play in the quarterback position. We've seen Browning have a couple of good outings for the Bengals. You know, nobody expected Tommy Cutlass DeVito to be out here winning 3 games. So there's been a whole lot of unpredictability. But at the same time, we've been talking about it all year. The unders have steadily been coming in. We've been asking and asking, when will the books adjust? When will that number get low enough? And maybe we finally seen the seller that if you're an over better and looking at some of these game totals in the over, now might be the time for you to potentially strike on some of these games.
Absolutely. I mean, the overs were hitting even when we had that 3-0 Raiders horrible. We're going to talk about that game, that Raiders game. But yeah, even with that, we still hit a lot of overs, especially a lot, like you said, a lot of bad backup quarterbacks coming in, but they still put up some points this past weekend. We might see that going forward, and the trend continues. But we'll say what's up to Hendo. What's going on? Glad to have you here. Now we will get into the biggest upset of the week, and that came in on Monday night. Titans plus 13 and a half. I think it was the biggest spread of the weekend at the Miami Dolphins. They get the win 28-27. And the biggest component of the game, of the Dolphins losing the game, was that they really could not move the ball when Tyreek went out of the game early in the game. You saw when he came back, they were able to have a little more success. They really only got their scores from the Titans' mistakes, whether it was all the fumbles or the interception that will let us through. It was mostly based off their mistakes, their turnovers, and that's how they were scoring points. Other than that, they weren't very successful in offense when Tyreek wasn't there, and that's a big part of the offense. He might be a guy that it kind of like when a quarterback is taken out, it shifts the line. That could have the same type of impact with Tyreek's not out there. You could see the line shift as much as that. And then, ultimately in the end, Will Levis made enough plays in that final drive to get, got it to Hopkins, won the game. So he played well in the end, even after, overcoming his mistakes. But yeah, just bad loss for the Dolphins, who usually beat up on these lesser teams, but they just weren't able to do it this game. And it just shows the kind of up and down for the Dolphins that they've been. But yeah, and that's what happens, and that's how it ends up the biggest upset of the week. But what do you think about Dolphins Titans?
I seen a stat on this game. Since the coming from a Bostonian in the book, a sports gambling show. I follow. But since 2016, in how can I word it? Since 2016, there's been, what was it, 767 times a team was down by 14 points or more with 3 minutes or less in the game. You know how many of those games the team that was down won? Zero.
Not many.
The
Yeah.
Exactly, zero. The Tennessee Titans were the first team since 2016 to win while being down by 14 points. Forget anybody holding a spread. as like yours truly, where I was able to get the number down around, I believe it was -9.5. It might have been -10, somewhere in that range. But either way, 14 points, covered every spread out there. And what happened? The Dolphins found a way to give it up. And we're talking about the Titans with the biggest upset of the week. So if you were a Dolphins backer at any point in this game, and I imagine there were a number of people that are, because I do believe the line moved more than a couple points over the course of the week. But you know, it. I'd hate to say it's ridiculous, but you'd like to imagine that you got it in the bag when you're up 14 points going into the final 3 minutes of the game, and that was not the case.
J6 says, well, Levis is exceeding more than Bryce, but just checking it up to the hop. Ain't that something? Shaking my head. I guess that's more for you since you are the Panthers fan.
Well,
Yeah, I
and
mean,
not just D Hop. That's what happens when you have a workhorse in the backfield like Derrick Henry and a I don't know. You wouldn't call Hopkins your traditional number one at this point, but he is definitely he can definitely be that safety outlet for a lot of quarterbacks because he has that ability to go up and get just about any pass. I mean, you put it, in the range of a garage, and D Hop will go get it. So, um, but yeah, you put pieces like that around a rookie quarterback, and it's similar to what you see going on in somewhere like San Francisco, where Brock Purdy may not be as talented as the stats would say, but he's when you do the things you're supposed to and not make the simple mistakes, not make turnovers and things of that nature, it's not that hard to look good. So, you know, Will Levis having Derrick Henry to hand the ball off to, and somebody like D Hop to, even if it's just a bomb deep to keep the defense honest, you know, those things, having weapons like those go a long way, even for a rookie quarterback.
yeah, I mean, like I said, I guess yeah, he does have two different weapons to play off him, and he just kind of, but that doesn't mean he doesn't make. He didn't make like I said, he made a ton of mistakes in the beginning of the game, where he's just willing to get like just sit there and check it up and kind of see what happens, and he end up with a win, and he just takes he's taking his chances, and whether he's successful or not, and that's kind of how he's playing right now. I mean, basically our quarterback. Um, Jay comes back with he says D didn't even have Jeffrey Simmons to us, and still got sacked on the last play. But they did have Harold Landry. Landry was a closer in that game, so he got to say he's a great player too. So they didn't have Simmons, but they had another great pass rusher on their side. But now we will get to the bad beat of the week. And I mentioned it earlier, and that is the Minnesota Vikings -3.5 at the Las Vegas Raiders. The Vikings win it 3-0. And I brought that. This was a bad beat, not just for anybody who bet on the Vikings -3.5 and got screwed by that hook. And it was just a bad beat for all the NFL and all the NFL fans and football in general, because it was just an awful, disgusting game 3-0. There was no offense in this game. And like I said last week, you were on the Vikings. You wanted to ride that Josh Dobbs train, even though it had derailed already. And I wasn't gonna follow you. I was gonna kindly just get off that train and leave you, let you go on there and keep riding it. He got benched, and now they're going to be riding with Nick Mullins going forward. So I don't know if you want to hop on that train, but I'll stay away from that. I'll hop on a different train than that one. But yeah, this line moved from 3 to 3.5. So if you got screwed by the hook, that just shows you the benefit of betting early versus betting late. But the end, the hook will always get you. But what you think? This is the game you pushed on, I'm guessing.
Yes, and seeing as how there was only one score in this game and I managed to not lose this bet, I would almost make a case this might have been the play of the week because, like you said, I mean, you want to talk about some ugly football. I'm not sure I can recall a game ever, as far as, in my lifetime that I've watched or, heard of, where literally the final score was 3-0. I mean, yeah, that's insane. I'd love to see, the statisticians out there and the stat heads. You know, when was the last? I'd love to hear when the last time we had a score 3-0 in an NFL game.
It
Um,
was they haven't had that low of a score in where was it? I think it was 16 years. I think that's what I saw. I wrote down somewhere, but I think it was around 16 years. That oh yeah, there was the lowest score game in 16 years. So yeah, it's been a long time.
but yeah, like I said, to only have 3 points put up in this game, had the -3, as you said, one of the benefits of being able to get on a number early, not having to deal with that hook. But yes, I mean, I almost thought it was a mistake. It was a halftime score or something when I pulled up the score and I looked and it said 3-0 and I was like, okay. And then it said final and I was like, wait, is that for real? So I am glad I didn't watch this game, though, like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, it would be interesting to see if I could find somewhere that's going to give those odds on the push potential.
Right now, we would get into our own records of the week. I had a losing week, not great, not terrible, 2-3. Um, my best pick. I mean, you had to bet it. You had to bet this game because I told you to bet this game with all your heart, with all your soul, because I just knew it was going to happen. I knew we were going to kick the Philadelphia Eagles' ass, and boy, did we do that! And that was my best pick. Eagles at Cowboys. Cowboys -3. We kicked their ass 13-33. And like I said, I mean, I even called it on Good Friends Better Rivals. I was very close to the score. I said we would win 37-14. We ended up winning 33-13, of course. But I just knew it. I knew they especially after we should have won the previous game on the road at Philly, played worse on the road, but definitely coming at home. You thought we were going to lose at home? We weren't going to lose at home. We haven't lost at home since in what 15, 16 games. That wasn't going to happen. So you had to put your money on the Cowboys. Always put your money on the Cowboys. We're just kicking ass there. But also with Dak, Dak was playing awesome. He's been playing awesome since that Niners game. And the Eagles had just come off a bad loss to the Niners, getting their ass kicked there too. And they were on the downside. So I mean, I just don't understand why you would vote bet them. They were Vegas doesn't trust them. That's why they were 3-point underdog here. They were 3-point underdog at home against the Niners. Vegas doesn't trust them. You shouldn't trust them, and that's why the Cowboys went in and got the big victory there.
Yeah, I mentioned it last week. It definitely seemed like the Cowboys were picking things up, and not necessarily peaking, but they were definitely on the same page, had their act together, and going into this matchup, it seemed like Philly was the one not only struggling in the past previous weeks, but they didn't seem. I don't want to necessarily say prepared, but tired's not the right word, but they definitely had they hadn't dealt with this stretch, this bit of a gauntlet that they've been going through. They hadn't survived it well. And going into this game, it didn't seem to be much momentum behind the Philadelphia Eagles team. And I think that showed on the field a little bit. And, when you got a strong, good team, it doesn't matter who you are. If you don't get out there and stop them, you're gonna see them put up points. And the Cowboys didn't go out there and make any mistakes, and that put the pressure on the Eagles to keep up with them, and they weren't able to do it. And we saw the outcome.
And J6 says Eagles, Williams getting clipped, secondary's cheeks, and Bradbury and Slay is not making play. Yeah, I mean, I've been saying it all season long. I mean, that's their weakest part of their the defense, when their defense just total is not very good, even though the front, they have really good players up front, but their defense hasn't been very good all season. And just the secondary is just complete ass. It just sucks. And just can be had by anybody. And that's where we definitely took advantage. But I was gonna get to your record, and what was your best pick?
Ended up going 1-3-1 on the week, but my best pick came in, a nice upset, as the Broncos did go out and not only cover the spread, but win. We were talking about it last week. This Chargers team, even before this game, just seemed to be falling apart. I'd have to double check when Justin Herbert went down with his injury, but coming into this game, I was fully backing the Broncos. If I'm not mistaken, didn't you have them last week as well?
Yes, I did have the Broncos.
Yeah, see, so a bit of an upset special, but the Chargers went out there and kind of showed everybody what we expected the past couple weeks. And now that Herbert's I don't know if he's being set for the rest of the season or whatnot, but things are not headed in the right direction for the Chargers and that organization. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some changes being made, whether it be head coach, GM. Um, we're gonna see some things get shaken up down there with the Los Angeles Chargers, because they still out there playing like the San Diego Chargers. So you know, we'll see how things work out with them. Uh, but yeah, Denver, it's been a hot team.
And since Herbie is done, yeah, I think he's done as well this
That's what I
season.
thought, but I didn't know for sure. So but Denver, they've been hot, and it's that simple. They've figured out some things to get the offense clicking, and that's I think plain and simple. That's been working for them for the past few weeks, and with the defense they have, you know, another instance where if that offense isn't going out there and making mistakes, if I'm pretty sure that in the beginning of the season, um, fumbles were an issue, turnovers in general were an issue basically, and if you can go out there and limit those mistakes, I mean, they've shown they got. I'd have to double check the stats, but if I'm not mistaken, it's a top 5 defense. We're definitely talking a top 10 defense, and you know we've seen that defense help this team propel itself to a couple victories over the past few weeks. So definitely, uh, as far as my pick of the week, had to be the upset with Denver.
All right. My dad says his best pick was Bears over Lions. Yeah, that was one of our losses. I think we both took the Lions.
Yep.
Yeah, it was a bad pick. Just Jared Goff just didn't play as well as he usually does, as he has shown throughout the season. Went back to his turnovers, threw 2 picks. Yeah, it was bad. And then just Fields came out, ran the ball pretty well, and that's what when he gets off running, Bears are hard to beat. They're tough. They're a tough team there. But yeah, good for him, good for the Bears. But yeah, it was a bad pick for us. But it was a bad pick, but it was not my worst pick. And the worst pick was the Texans -3.5 at the Jets. They lose 6-30. And yeah, I don't think anybody thought that Zach Wilson would have the game that he had. Basically played the best game of his career. especially against the Texans, of how hot they have been in recent weeks. Especially D'Amico Ryan's coach defense. Yeah, I just didn't see it coming. I just didn't see 301 yards, 27-36, 2 touchdowns. I mean, I just don't know how you can see that. I was definitely fading him, even more than even betting on the Texans. But he came out there and showed out. The Jets defense was, they've been good as always. Um, but they were especially good in this game. They really put a stop to Stroud's hot streak that he had going on. They even took him out of the game. He got a concussion. He only had 10 to 23, 91 yards. Pretty bad. He was also without, he's already without a Tank Dell. Then he loses Nico Collins, and so he's not playing with a whole lot receivers. Just he was already not playing with great receivers, and then he loses even more. So yeah, I guess it was a bad game for the Texans, and was a bad pick for me.
Well, I was riding with that same pick as well. Now they heard me talk about it at the beginning of the episode. You know, had the Dolphins, and one of the worst beats in the past 8 7-8 years. One out of nearly 800. With that Dolphins loss, because I was checking in on the score. Uh, it's a close game. They score a touchdown, if I'm not mistaken, or they're up by a score. Uh, Tennessee gets the ball. I'm not sure exactly what happened on the play, but there's a fumble. Bradley Chubb recovers it. Dolphins have the ball uh, deep in Dolphins or in Titans territory, and so you literally had um, a quick 14 points that literally had you up, had gave everybody was covering. It didn't matter where you had the number. Uh, I'm sure there's some live betters out there that probably were sitting with a number around 6, 4, 3, and they still lost, and that's just insane. So, you know, definitely had to be my worst pick on the week.
All right, that wrap up our recap week 14. Before we get into week 15, we like to help you guys out. If you guys can help us out by um, subscribing to the channel, and hitting that like button as well, and hitting the notification so you can be notified when we go live. Go live every Wednesday at 8 o'clock, and go live every Friday as well at 3 o'clock. Good Friends Battle Rivals as well. So you definitely want to hit that notifications button. And then if you really want to help us out, you can subscribe to our Patreon. The link is in the description down below, and you can join whichever tier that fits you. We definitely appreciate you guys in doing all of that. But now we will get into our week 15 best bets of the week. And I'll let you start off this week, DWeezy. What you got? You're on mute. Maybe I should have started.
Oh no, here I am. Here I am. Yo, yeah, going into
Right.
my first play this week. Going right back to that same Denver Broncos team with another upset because they're coming into a matchup against the Lions, +4 on the spread. Now this game is in Detroit. There's a few statistics out there about how well Jared Goff plays outdoors versus indoors. I'm not sure I would lean on that as much as I would, as they just heard me mention. We're talking about a hot team with Denver, one that a team that's been playing well offensively and as well defensively, and getting 4 points. Uh, yes, they're going on the road, but you know the Lions they've been iffy. just when you think they're gonna take that next step, they seem to fall backwards 2 steps, and that's like your pop said, he was riding with the Chicago Bears against the Detroit Lions, and I the Bears are not a good team. It's that simple. And so you know, if I got to pick, of the match, in the matchup, I definitely like the Denver Broncos getting +4 in this matchup. And so that's who I'm gonna be riding with.
My dad is right there with you, taking the Broncos as well. Yeah, I just couldn't pick this game. It's too many. I'm not gonna totally say, oh, the Lions are just done and they're a bad team because they've won too many games in the season to say that. But Broncos been really hot. Russell really gotten together. Champagne's gotten that team together. They're looking really good. Um, so I can go either way on this game. I can take Broncos and take Lions. I go back and forth, so I just decided to stay away from that game, just because I think it's gonna be a close game. Um, but for my first pick, I have the Steelers at the Colts. Colts -1.5. I'm going to lay the points with the Colts. TJ Watt is questionable for the game. We all know Kenny Pickett has been out, and Mitch Trubisky is once again going to be starting for them Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers been two terrible losses. I mean, really, really bad losses to really bad teams, and the Cardinals and the Patriots. Their offense just cannot get together. You thought there was a little bit of spark when Kenny Pickett was still there, but there is nothing. There is nothing going on with Mitchell Trubisky. He can't get anything together for the Steelers. They have scored 20 points or less in 6 of the last 7 games. Colts are 8th in scoring on the other side. Gardner Minshew can put up some points. And he has shown that to do that with this offense this season. I think they just kind of ran into these backup quarterbacks have this spark, and that's what he ran into Jake Browning last week. And so I think they can put that behind them, and I expect them to bounce back after that loss, especially they're playing at home. And then I think the Steelers will continue to be reeling and just be just a mess on offense, and they just can't hang with that really anybody. If they can't beat the Patriots, they can't beat the Cardinals, then they can't do it against anybody. So I like the Colts in this one.
Yeah, this was definitely a matchup I was looking at. I decided to stay off of it, but I was looking to the Colts in this matchup, as you said, losing back-to-back weeks to possibly um, 2 of the worst teams in the league right now. Uh, and when you look at the offensive numbers, it's hard to argue that there's much drop off from Kenny Pickett to Mitchell Trubisky. Um, just because all year this team offensively hasn't done nothing. Um, a lot of hype was made about the Matt Canada firing. Now I completely agree that it was warranted. Um, but that following game coming out and putting up the amount of yardage as they did, I think a real red flag was the lack of points put up in that matchup. And since then, we've still seen that, just a lack of points. And we've seen a lot of the same ailments that existed before the Matt Canada firing continue now. And I think, we could easily see that occur this weekend. Um, Steelers have been a team that have won games off of their defense a lot this year. And when you talk about a key piece like a TJ Watt um, being injured, that could easily be as detrimental as losing any offensive player. Uh, so yes, I could definitely get behind and get along with backing the Colts minus a skinny spread. Like at my book, I'm seeing -1.5, but even if it was -2, I'd still like the Colts in that situation. Now to move into my second pick, um, for those Ravens fans out there, they remember Joe Flacco, and we saw him pull off magic last week. And I'm going to the Cleveland Browns as they take on the very same Chicago Bears defense or team that we saw upset the Lions last week. I'm gonna be riding with the Browns -3 in this game, um, largely due to the Browns defense. I'm not sure if it's currently still number one, but for a large portion of the season, we've seen them have the number one defense throughout the year. Um, and I think that's going to be a big reason why they're able to go out there and control this matchup with the Chicago Bears, who have struggled. They've consistently struggled to can be consistent all year long. Um, there are games like where last week where you think maybe they're starting to figure some things out, and then there's games. This season's riddled with plenty of games where we've seen them go out there and just lay an egg and return right back to the same old Chicago Bears that we've seemed to know. Now, um, let me see. And -3 only needing, to win by more than a field goal. I would not be shocked if this Chicago team goes out and struggles. I was gonna try and check the team total real quick, but I wouldn't be shocked if they go out and struggle to put up 17 points in this matchup. Let me see if they have. Ooh, look at that. The book literally has the number, the team total for the Bears, 17 and a half. Like,
Yeah,
I wish I had. I was gonna say, I wish I had that wrote down. I wish I could say that was scripted. Nah, but yeah. So, in this matchup, not needing a lot of points out of the offense, and you got a defense that can potentially put up points for you. So yeah, taking the Browns -3.
yeah. I always want to pick the Browns, because of that defense. It's just weird for me to bet on a defense, knowing that they're very questionable at quarterback. That's very weird for me. But they look, Joe Flacco looked pretty good last week, and I definitely don't trust the Bears, despite getting a good win over the Lions. They could fall right back down to earth at any time, but or they could not, or maybe this Fields turned the corner and he starts to play really well. That's kind of why this was not one of my picks. I just I can't bet on defense. Um, this is not me, but my second pick, I got the. I got one train. I got off the Josh Downs train. I'm gonna hop right onto another train, a train that is, steaming down the tracks, and that is the Tommy Cutlets train. I'm getting right on that Giants train. I'm going with the Giants +6 at the New Orleans Saints. As Davon comes in, we'll say what's up to him, what's going on, but yeah, I'll be riding the Tommy Cutlets train in this one. Because he's been on us. He's been 3 in a row. You know how I love trends. I love trends with the numbers. I love trends when quarterbacks get hot or when replacement coaches gets hot. I love those. I love trends. I'm going to stick with the trends until they fizzle out, and then I'll get off of them. But as this one still is going on, I'll get right on it. And +6 is a lot. I mean, plus for a Saints team that has been struggling to score points all season, I just don't see them covering a 6-point spread. They're not going to do that, even against the Giants. And the Giants, it's not just that they're winning. I think they've ultimately been playing better. I mean, they didn't allow any sacks in the previous game. That's their biggest weakness, was that offensive line. They're terrible offensive line, and Tommy DeVito didn't get sacked in this previous game on Monday night. So they've been just as a whole, they've been playing better. He seems like he can make plays that win games. So how can I not take him? I mean, and then the Saints just 1-4 against the spread in the last 5 games, and they are just 3-9-1 on the season. Pretty goddamn terrible against the spread. So taking Tommy Cutlets and the New York Giants.
I'm riding with this exact same play because, yes, get out of here. What are you talking about? We got Tommy Cutlass. We got the Giants actually figuring out how to play. Nobody last week had on their bingo card the two quarterbacks in New York being possibly the best quarterback play on the week. But yes, that's exactly what we saw happen as Zach Wilson and Tommy Cutlass going out there and doing their thing. And like you said, the Giants have, with DeVito out there, they have been playing better offensively. He may be more athletic in the sense of quickness, maybe a little bit of agility. Because we've seen Daniel Jones isn't slow by any means, but DeVito's shown, he does have that ability to move around in the backfield to avoid pressure. And when you're having offensive line struggles, that's definitely, a trait that's going to help you. And that's what we've seen happen. Now, all year, we've been telling people how bad the Saints team is. And the Saints shouldn't be a 6-point favorite over any team other than maybe the Carolina Panthers. Now, that being said, they're not playing the Carolina Panthers. So I'm be riding with Tommy DeVito plus the 6 points.
And you bring up that Panthers game. I mean, it was a one-score game going into the fourth quarter, so they were struggling with them. It just kind of got out of hand in the fourth quarter, where they made it look worse than it was. And I also think the Giants have the coaching advantage in this way because I think Dennis Allen's on a very good coach, and Brian Dable, at least he's shown he was a really good coach last year, and he continues to win in this season, but. Yeah, I think it's your turn for your next pick.
Well, no, I actually Giants plus 6
that was your
is
pick.
my
Okay,
third
the
pick.
Giants. Okay. Then I'll get to my third pick, and I got the Los Angeles Rams -6 at home versus the Washington Commanders. And Rams, took one of the best teams in the league to limit there in overtime. They had a chance to win. And they despite the record, they've been very competitive throughout the season. They still are in the playoff hunt because of their how well they played, and the Commanders don't really have much to play for. They know their coach is going to get fired. They just kind of doing whatever out there. They've been really bad. They begin beat up pretty bad throughout the season. Matt Stafford coming off a good game, 294 yards, 3 touchdowns. And Kyle Williams, since coming back from injury, has been awesome. Got another 100-yard game just this past game. Obviously, you got Kupp, you got Nakua playing awesome. And then the Rams, they have scored 30 points in the last 3 games. And on the other side, the Commanders have just scored 20 points or less. And I haven't scored 20 points in the last 3 games. Rams have been pretty decent against spread, 7-5-1. So I like them to lay the points at home.
Man, yet again, I'm riding with the exact same play. Riding with the Rams. This Commanders team against the spread has lost 3 straight games, and I see no reason why it won't occur yet again. We're seeing a Rams team that quite possibly for the first time this season is actually fully healthy. And I mean, if we're talking about a healthy Matt Stafford, Cooper Kupp, we're quite possibly talking about the rookie of the year out of Nakua. I forget the running back's name. But there's a lot of talent on that offensive side of the ball. Even if you don't consider Matt Stafford to be a quality quarterback, like a lot of people are saying with San Francisco, quarterback may be the weakest position. Well, with the Rams, even if the quarterback is the weakest position, then that means you got some pretty good talent going on because there's quarterbacks out there worse than Matt Stafford, and quite possibly one being on the other side of the ball. Sam Howell has not played awful this season, but there have there's been a number of instances this season where the quarterback playing in Washington has definitely left you longing for the possibility of drafting the next hot shot quarterback coming out of the college ranks. So yeah, in this matchup, you got a horrible offensive line and Aaron Donald on the other side. Even if he doesn't rack up stats all game long, Sam Howell's going to be back there running for his life. So give me the Rams minus 6.5.
All right. I get to my next pick. I got my Dallas Cowboys +2 at the Buffalo Bills. I think the wrong team is favored here. I don't care if we're on the road. Yeah, we don't play as well on the road, but I think the Bills are just overvalued after getting that big win that they probably should have lost, determining a call there in the end of the game. Um, but I think they're overvalued because they got that win. Cowboys are just a completely better team than the Buffalo Bills at this moment in time. Um, they're playing way better than the Bills, and Bills have key pieces missing on defense. They don't run the ball really well or consistently. And they just get really pass happy when Jared Allen just feels like throwing it up to anybody. And that's the thing, he's turnover machine. And if the weather's bad, I don't understand how that helps a guy who turns the ball over. I think that would just make it worse for them. And because they're pass happy, I think that just plays right into the Cowboys defense's advantage because our pass rush is so good and we'll be able to get after them. And then Dak just playing great. I mean, he's playing great for these recent weeks. I just expect him to keep that up. And then the Cowboys, good against spread, 4-1 last 5 games, and coming off that great blowout victory against the Eagles. Buffalo 2-7 against the spread in their last 9 games. So I definitely like my Cowboys. If you're going to give me the 2 points, I'm going to take them.
Yeah, I mean, I said it last week. The Cowboys were definitely playing strong and definitely playing they're playing their best football at the right time of year. And given what we saw last week, there's definitely no reason to see them. They're not falling off any. And though it might have been a very controversial call for no reason, the Bills were about a foot and a half away from losing that game. However far uh, Tony's foot was over the line of scrimmage. Um, but the Bills have been struggling this season. It's that simple. Last week everybody was talking about them. A strong chance of them not making the playoffs, and they were one flag away from being eliminated from the playoffs. So to put them as a favorite in this matchup against the Cowboys is definitely a reach for me. I'm not on this game personally, but I mean, I'd have to go with the Cowboys. It's that simple. Like you said, there's a lot of things about this game that make you wonder why the Bills are favored because it seems like the Dallas Cowboys should be the favorite in this game, even if they are on the road. Now going into my last pick, going with another hot team, one of the best in the AFC right now, and that's the Baltimore Ravens as they take on the Jacksonville Jaguars, minus 3.5 on the spread. They are going down to Jacksonville, but you know they were pushed to into overtime against the Rams. Now we saw them win on a spectacular punt return walk off fashion to win the game in overtime. Uh, But I think one thing that really stands out about this Ravens team, and it's something we've seen more so maybe in the second half of the year, but definitely in the later end of the year, the offense really starting to pick things up and putting points on the board, whether that be through the run game, through the pass game. This team's finding the end zone. Um, I think a lot of people were a bit shocked by the offensive performance they saw out of the Rams, as the Ravens have had one of the best defenses this year. Um, and but on the flip side of that coin, I don't think too many people were shocked by what the offense went out there and did. Um, Lamar Jackson's easily putting up possibly another MVP for, performance this year, and going into this game, they're playing hard, they're playing strong. We see, Jacksonville's banged up. Even if we see Trevor Lawrence out there, the question is, how healthy is he going to be out there? And while Baltimore may not necessarily rack up sacks from the defensive line specifically, they can get to the quarterback. They can force turnovers. And this offense is, running at a very high level. And if they continue to do that, we might not only be talking about the MVP in Lamar Jackson, but a potential Super Bowl winner.
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of stayed away from this because I can see another exact same game that they had last week against the Rams. I can see that happening here. Still think the Ravens going to win, but I just don't want to be sweating it out in the end all game in this one. And if I don't feel confident, then I just don't want to bet it. But for my last bet, I have the Eagles -4 at the Seattle Seahawks on Monday Night Football. And I just can't see the Eagles losing 3 games in a row. I mean, they've shown that they can beat really good teams. They've beaten the Dolphins, Chiefs, Bills, and then they just got beat up by the Cowboys and Niners for the past 2 weeks. But on the other side, Seahawks got beat up back to back by the exact same 2 teams. So we'll definitely find out who's more beaten up by those 2 teams in this one. Seahawks, they don't know if Geno Smith he's still questionable with that groin injury. So we'll see if it's going to be him or Drew Lock. And either way, I just don't. If they do put him out there, I think it's going to be 100%. And I think the Eagles just need to get their offense going back again, and then to get back on track. And they'll probably still be, a little wobbly there, but I think they can cover a 4-point spread to win the game. Just if their defense is still going to be bad, but as long as they can, get a touchdown in the end and cover that spread, I'm looking to take them. And I just definitely don't think they're going to lose 3 straight, especially when they need to keep pace with the Niners, and especially they can't lose a game because then that even put them even lower in the division. So there's a lot on the line for them, and I think they just need to go out there and play desperate to hang on to what they have right now.
Yeah, and it was one thing you heard me mention at the beginning of the episode: potential tiebreakers and playoff scenarios, and this being an NFC matchup, you're talking about a conference matchup, a game that's going to affect your conference record. And I'm not sure, it's either the second or third tiebreaker off the top of my head, but as I mentioned, tiebreakers have been a hot topic of discussion because of how many teams are still alive this late in the season. And as you mentioned, if the Eagles lose 3 in a row and lose this game, the potential of losing the division does come. That possibility does come in greatly into factor. Now, on the flip side of that, if they win and Dallas lose, it's a little bit of a different scenario. But as it sits now, they need this win, and so yes, there should be a little bit of desperation going on in the Philadelphia locker room, and I think we'll see a stronger Philadelphia team out there. One maybe a little not necessarily rested, but not necessarily that mental fatigue of knowing we're going up against potentially one of the best teams in the league right now. And for the past, 2 or 3 weeks, that was hands down the conversation. Like, hey, we got to bring it. We got to be at our best. We got to bring in 110%. You know, Seattle, not to say they play any, with any less drive or energy, but it's a little easier to relax out there and get in your comfort zone as a player when you're not having to remind yourself, oh yeah, by the way, that's one of the best teams out there right now. So, that being said, um, I could definitely get behind Philadelphia -3.5, where I'm looking, but even at -4, just needing a touchdown to cover. Um, the possibility of Geno Stone being hurt in this game, I definitely like that number even better. Even if Geno's out there, I definitely think they can win by a touchdown. And even if it's one of these lower scoring Philadelphia games that we've seen this season, winning by a touchdown is still very plausible for the offense that Philadelphia has.
All right, that is we'll wrap up our week 5 bets. On week 15 bets. We'll go over them one more time for y'all. I have the Indianapolis Colts at home -1.5 against Steelers. I have the Giants going on the road, New Orleans +6. I have the Rams -6.5 at home versus the Commanders. I got my Dallas Cowboys +2 on the road in Buffalo. And then I have the Eagles -4 on the road at the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, this week I'm gonna be rolling with the Denver Broncos +4, the Cleveland Browns -3 as Flacco tries to continue his resurgence back into the NFL. Got the Rams -6.5 as they take on the Commanders. Um, of course, Tommy Cutlass and the New York Giants +6. I know Ferris has to be smiling somewhere, hopefully holding a sandwich. Um, and my last pick, Baltimore Ravens -3.5 as they take on the Jaguars on Sunday Night Football.
All right, you can tell the people where they can find you, DWeezy.
Yes, y'all can reach me at Backyard Action Media here on YouTube and on Twitter X at the Yard Bets.
You can find me at NFLKL22 on Instagram and Twitter/X. You can find me on this channel on Fridays at 3 o'clock, talking Cowboys, talking Giants on Good Friends, Better Rivals. We will be getting into what happened this past week. I'll get more depth on the Eagles Cowboys game, and also we'll talk about the Giants and Tommy Cutlets versus them Packers, and we'll preview the upcoming games against Cowboys going to Buffalo and the Giants. I have no idea who the Giants are playing. We'll preview those games on Friday. But yeah, thank you all for watching. We appreciate it so much. But like I always say, let's get ready to make that money.